Malaysian 370, contact Ho Chi Minh 120.9. Good night.
Good night, Malaysian 370.
Breaking news tonight, a Malaysia Airlines flight with 239 people on board, including 4 Americans, has gone missing.
From the Hindu scripture, the Bhagavad Gita, Vishnu is trying to persuade the prince that he should do his duty, and to impress him takes on his multi-armed form and says, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds."
Welcome, everybody, to the live stream. Thank you guys for being here. Happy Monday, everybody. Happy Monday. Guys, there's been a lot of stuff going on. First of all, I want to say thank you so much for all the prayers. Holy crap, guys. I don't want to delve too much into it, but it felt like an actual miracle. I went to the hospital to see Aunt Margot on Sunday. I was in the heart hospital. I was actually terrified walking to the room, because, you know, I did not know what her situation was going to be. She literally had to be resuscitated with CPR. Her pulse had stopped. And I get in there and she's like awake and just sitting in the chair and talking to the nurse. And I'm like, what the hell? Like, I was blown away. So thank you very much for all the prayers. So far, so good. Things are going great on that front. Now, guys, today, I want to talk a little bit about science. We're on a science binge, guys. Today, we're talking about teleportation. Teleportation, real teleportation. And I want to jump right into it and take a look at this scientific paper by Eric W. Davis that explains the actual real concepts of teleportation, which ones are legitimate versus which ones are science fiction. And then we're going to listen to some of the smartest Black Project engineers ever all explain the scientific basis for teleportation as well. And then it will help explain that as well. And that just reminded me, somebody just wrote ER equals EPR or EPR in the chat. I want to do something about that too. Great. Okay. So let's actually, before that, guys, I hope you saw, it looks like Kurt Metzger is interested in an interview. I can't wait to talk to Kurt Metzger. Also, Robert J. O'Neill is giving me tentative approval to do an interview with him as well. So got some pretty awesome things coming up potentially after the Cosmic Summit next week. And then once again, Tim Pool with Dr. Yu next Friday. So they're like, things are, I don't know, man. I'm really happy about what's been going on. Okay, so let's take a look. Actually, you know what? I want to watch this EPR video first, I think. Like, let me see. Oh, yeah, here it is. ER equals EPR. This video, I think, really helps us to explain the basis for how is a teleportation even possible. Like, when I started investigating the MH370 videos, the first surprise for me was that I started looking up wormhole scientific papers. And I found 3 that were all after 2020 that all said that wormholes are humanly traversable. I had been under the impression that a wormhole was like maybe something that's like a black hole, but it would annihilate you if you went through it. I didn't think it was actually a real thing. And so then I start researching, you find out like, oh no, a bunch of engineers and scientists have said that like, no, you theoretically should be able to get through a wormhole. And you're going, huh, okay, maybe we will go and look down this route. And the next thing you run into is something called ER equals EPR. Einstein-Rosen, aka a wormhole, is equal to Einstein-Rosen-Podolsky, which is quantum entanglement. Huh. Why is this such a cool idea? Because it says that it takes the idea of scale invariance. Things that are really small can be made to be very big, and things that are very big can be made to be very small. and it unifies those ideas. It says maybe a wormhole, a macroscopic wormhole, is equivalent to quantum entanglement. Maybe they're the exact same thing. So here's a little explainer video on ER equals EPR.
The holy grail of physics has been and is the unification of these two realms into something like a quantum theory of gravity, which we don't currently have. Einstein himself was working on this idea of unification until his last days. In fact, he, along with his collaborator, Nathan Rosen, in attempting to create this unified theory of quantum gravity, published what is now called the ER paper for Einstein and Rosen. Together, they developed the concept of a certain type of wormhole called an Einstein-Rosen or ER bridge. The idea is you start with a flat spacetime, then you add something super heavy, like a black hole that breaks spacetime, something that creates a kind of hole in the fabric of spacetime because of a theoretical singularity which would occur at its center.
So you can see right away how this connects the idea of a black hole to a wormhole. Is they're saying, okay, we got this flat space-time. Okay, we're going to say, just to simplify things, let's say space-time is flat, and now we're going to bend it. Well, if we bend it a lot, now we're changing the geometry. We're changing the geometry of space-time. So now you can do what we just saw there, which is we can make a bridge between 2 points that weren't previously connected before. That's what Einstein-Rosen, ER, was showing.
The point of infinite mass density. Thus, you get a kind of tube-like structure of space-time that ends up at the singularity. Now, if you have this same construction somewhere else in space, then you could just imagine these two tubes connecting such that you don't have a singularity anymore, but rather a tube that connects one space-time to the other space-time. This is a wormhole. It's like a bridge from one part of space-time to another.
How crazy this science is it's just real science. Like, this is Einstein's equations, the same equations we use every day, the basis for all physics. This is Einstein's equations taken to its extreme. So when people say this is just theoretical, what do you mean it's theoretical? This isn't theoretical. Einstein's equations are proven to be real, proven to be true, many, many times over. But that some people, the same people that say Einstein's equations are real, all this stuff, they go, yes, but you're not allowed to break them like you just did. You're not allowed to break. What do you mean? It's not even me who came up with this. This is Einstein who came up with this. All Einstein stuff is correct, except for they just don't believe that this part's real for some reason. And here's the rub. Like many things in physics, the academics, their math isn't wrong. Their math's not wrong. Their conceptual view is what's wrong. Their conceptual view is what's wrong. We're not physically making a tube. We're not physically making a tube that the object's going through. That's not what happened. That's not what's happening in the MH370 videos. It's more confusing than that, actually. What we're seeing is like the plane is there and then it's just not there. And presumably it's somewhere else the next instant. So the tube, the tunnel, the throat is more of a concept of us thinking about it. It's not necessarily what we would physically see. That's what I want people to understand. Because people ask me, Ashton, they say, what would it look like from the perspective of the people on board the plane? And I always say it would look like walking through a doorway. You're not going to be like in some kind of tube, like hyperspace, like in the movies. No, you're just going to instantly be somewhere else. Right? That's the rub.
Now, it so happens, just prior to publishing this paper, Einstein, Rosen, and another collaborator by the name of Boris Podolsky had published what is known as the EPR paper, in which they argued that quantum mechanics is incomplete because of something called quantum entanglement. This is a phenomenon in which a pair of particles can be created in such a way that their quantum states are linked to each other. They're linked such that the act of measuring, for example, the spin of one particle, instantly determines the spin of its entangled pair, no matter how far apart they are. So the EPR paper argued that this is not possible because it would require information transfer instantly or faster than the speed of light, breaking causality. Now here is where it gets interesting. What if the wormhole from the ER paper and the phenomenon of entanglement from the EPR paper were theoretically connected. What if two entangled particles very far apart were exchanging information instantly because they were intimately connected via a wormhole through which this information could transfer through space-time instantly?
Wow. Look at that end. When they just overlay the two on top of each other, it's like, isn't it just obvious? Like, clearly the idea of a wormhole, opening and a closing in one point, for conservation to hold true, it should be the same as entanglement. Like that, they seem like they obviously must be connected when you look at them conceptually. You say they're really explaining the same kind of concept, aren't they? One person brought up in the comments, said, we're just now working on information transfer using quantum entanglement. No, we've got information transfer figured out. In fact, John Kramer explains it in his dirt. I'm not going to pull it up right now, but you can watch the live streams from last week. John Kramer explains it. He says they figured out how to do signaling with a quantum system. Here's the rub. In that video, it said, theoretically, they don't think it's possible because it would cause retrocausality. Faster than light communication would cause retrocausality. That's fine. Don't do faster than light communication. Set it up so that it's just instantaneous transmission. As long as it's instantaneous and not retrocausal, then there's no causality break. That's what John Kramer says. And he's right. The moment I find one of these defense intelligence reference document authors, and then you find out he's a experimental nuclear physicist, yeah, I'm going to pay real close attention to what his view is on quantum mechanics. So he says the solution, have it not be retrocausal. Maybe nature doesn't allow us to go back in time. And then the answer to the question of how do you communicate? How do you use quantum entanglement to communicate faster than light? The answer is you create a switch. You create a switch. So you have two connected systems, a sender and a receiver, and the transmitter sends to the receiver a 1 or a 0. It sends it a 1 or a 0 in the form of an interference pattern. Either they see an interference pattern or they see two slits. I mean, a 1 or a 0. You either see coherence or decoherence. And now you have a switch. So you actually don't need to, let's say this is something that's spinning, and I say, okay, I'm going to turn it 90 degrees. And you say, okay, the entangled particle is also going to turn 90 degrees. You don't even need to do that. You don't even need to do that. That's the crazy part. They figured out how to turn quantum entanglement into a switch that turns on or off the coherence pattern, and that gives you binary. And once you have binary, you can send any message you want. Boom. And for anyone who doubts it, wait until I go on Tim Pool, because the very first thing I'm going to tell Tim Pool is, hey, Tim Pool, you know how you have that defense person who says that we have faster than light communication? I know exactly how it works, and I'm going to explain it to him. And if that's not enough, get this. What would it actually do? Well, it turns out they're working on quantum internet. Quantum internet's already being worked on. There was a bunch of news articles that came out. Scientists may have discovered the missing element of the quantum internet. Scientists just took a big step towards quantum internet. Look at all these quantum internet articles. Telcos look towards quantum internet. Now, what would this actually do then? What would FTL communications actually do practically, from a practical standpoint? Since it's not going to be retrocausal, the best it can do is zero lag, zero latency. If you don't know what that means, every gamer out there knows what I'm talking about right now. Lag and latency is a gamer term. Okay? If you're a gamer and you're playing video games, you're playing Call of Duty or whatever against your boy on the other side of the country, and there's a little bit of a lag. Like, oh, he shot me, but I shot him first. That's the lag. Because there's a delay. The speed of light has a slight delay. And when that delay gets longer than your reaction time, you start to notice the lag. The quantum internet will have no lag, zero lag. Think about that. Zero lag in the quantum internet. You're never going to miss a smite again in League of Legends, chat. If you're a jungler like me, you're never going to miss a smite again. We'll have to have whole new excuses for why people were killed. That wasn't me. That somebody pressed the wrong button. It was the lag that got me. We'll have whole new excuses. What this also means from long distance communication is that you would be able to control the Mars rover on Earth in real time. Think about that. There's no causality being broken by being allowed to do that. It seems like you're cheating, but it's almost like you have like a ghost arm and your ghost arm is stretching all the way to Mars. Pretty interesting, huh? Yeah, remote surgery will become possible as well. That's actually a really good one, JK. Holy crap, look at JK out here with the big brain ideas. Yeah, you could do remote surgery from the United States just using like metallic arms from somebody who's in like Saudi Arabia. That's just a very specific example that I just gave, but yes. So, what are the real forms of teleportation? Teleportation is real. We've now just looked at the science. We've looked at ER equals EPR. We've got traversable wormholes. And hey, everybody in the Rumble chat. Hey to my pilled followers as well, guys. How are you guys doing? Teleportation physics study by Eric W. Davis. One of the best. One of the best. You know, Frank Mead, project manager. Every time, chat. Every time. Now, right in the beginning somewhere here, it has all the types of teleportation. I just can't. Oh, here they are. Right here. Yeah, right in the beginning. Okay. Let's just read this part. It has been recognized that. Oh, let me make this a little bigger. It has been recognized that extending the present research in quantum teleportation and developing alternate forms of teleportation physics would have high payoff impact on communications and transportation technologies in the civilian and military sectors. It is the purpose of this study to explore the physics of teleportation and delineate its characteristics and performances, and to make recommendations for further studies in the support of Air Force Advanced Concepts programs. How do people like still not realize that the Air Force is working on active teleportation? Like, this paper is from 2004. 2004, guys. This is 21 years ago. 21 years ago, they were researching it. And people look at this because they just assume that, like, oh, this must be like they're just trying to confuse us or something. No, they just took Einstein's equations and they went, oh, space-time's a medium. We can like actually do this stuff. And they started doing it. They started doing it. So let's read the definitions of teleportation, okay? I'm going to read all the definitions of teleportation for you. You guys tell me in the chat which form of teleportation is your favorite. Just like which alien is your favorite. Actually, tell me which type of teleportation is your favorite. And I want to know what kind of alien is your favorite. And also your favorite kind of ice cream. 3 things. Favorite kind of teleportation, favorite kind of alien, and favorite kind of ice cream. Thank you. Teleportation sci-fi. The disembodied transport of persons or inanimate objects across space by advanced futuristic technological means. We call this sci-fi teleportation, SF teleportation, which will not be considered further in this study. So, this form of teleportation is impossible. There you go, debunkers. There is a form of teleportation that is possible. The idea that you are just dematerializing yourself and then beaming your information somewhere else and then rematerializing yourself somewhere else. That's not real. Okay, so Star Trek teleportation, as you see it when you're beaming me up, Scotty, is not the real kind of teleportation. Okay. 1 down, chat. Teleportation psychic. The conveyance of persons or inanimate objects by psychic means. We call this P teleportation. The crazy part is that this one is not necessarily fake. I can't tell you guys how much I looked at this one. I'm like, how does it not say it's not real on this one? In fact, I'm going to look at the detailed part of this because I think there's a part of this later around page 60 or 70 where it actually has some relevance to our discussion here. So psychic teleportation could mean like, it could be related to, what do they call it? Astral projection, remote viewing, basically. Remote viewing. VM teleportation or engineering teleportation. Engineering the vacuum or space-time metric. Now, here we go, Chad. This is my favorite right here. The conveyance of persons or inanimate objects across space by altering the properties of space-time vacuum or by altering the space-time geometry. We call this VM teleportation. Chat, I don't even need to read the rest. I've already got my favorite. My favorite's VM teleportation. My favorite alien is the Mantis aliens because they're misunderstood, greatly misunderstood. And my favorite ice cream is mint cookies. Anybody whose favorite ice cream is not mint cookies, you might as well just be left-handed. You might as well just be a witch. That's all I'm saying. Okay, teleportation, quantum, Q teleportation, quantum entanglement, the disembodied transport of the quantum state of a system and its correlations across space to another system, where system refers to any single or collective particles of matter or energy, such as baryons, leptons, photons, atoms, and ions. We call this Q teleportation. Okay, well, this one's scary because why did he break this out? The thing I can't understand, are these different or are all these just the same? These were my real thoughts when I first read it, and they're my real thoughts still right now as well. Because I look at this one and I go, if this is how it's working, the quantum entanglement option, and there's nothing more to it, then when that plane got teleported, it's like the Prestige. Whatever got rematerialized on the other side was technically the same stuff, but it wasn't the same people anymore. Probably just zombies. Basically brain-dead zombies came out on the other side. Or maybe even weirder than that. So I'm going to go ahead and hope that quantum entanglement, this version of it, I'm just going to hope this isn't real. I'm hoping that this one is a misunderstanding. The last one is exotic teleportation. The conveyance of persons or inanimate objects by transport through extra space dimensions or parallel universes. We will call this e-teleportation. Chat, don't lie. I know a lot of you's favorite is e-teleportation. Don't you lie. I've seen how many of you are obsessed with extra dimensions, Mandela effect, bizarro universes. So, quite a few different options on our teleportation front. Now, I want to do a quick look at the P teleportation. Yeah, okay, it is P teleportation. I'm pretty sure it's down on like page 60. See, look at that. I even had the page memorized. So anybody who says I didn't read the scientific paper or any bullshit like that, I had the exact page memorized. And I haven't looked at this paper in a long time. Where is it? Here we go, down here somewhere. It's somewhere in this paragraph. Where is it? I don't know. I'm just going to read this. Trying to remember where it was. Okay, I want to read this one right here, the conclusions here. The results of the Chinese P teleportation experiments can simply be explained as human consciousness phenomenon that somehow acts to move or rotate test specimens through four spatial dimension so that the specimens are able to penetrate the solid walls and barriers of their containers without physically breaching them. Quantum tunneling, anyone? No real dematerialization, rematerialization of the specimens takes place. The intensity fluctuations of the radio microtransmitter specimen's electromagnetic signal and the apparent blending of the other specimens with the walls of their containers represent the passage of the specimens through a fourth spatial dimension. During teleportation, the radio signals emitted by the microtransmitter became weak and non-existent and fluctuated because they were spreading out into the fourth dimension and became undetectable in our three-dimensional space-time. The weak signals that were detected represent the leakage portion of the radio signal back into our three-dimensional space-time from the fourth dimensional during the teleportation. Wow. The observed blending of the other specimens with the walls of their containers is how the movement and the rotation of the specimens through the fourth dimension was visually interpreted by the mind. Wow. So that right there reminds me of that high school kid who he's explaining teleportation or explaining dimensions by stacking the books on top of each other. This is what this is saying. There's a fourth dimension. There's an extra dimension, extra spatial dimension that we don't see. That's how quantum tunneling works. We see this leakage as it tunnels through the extra dimension. Pretty cool. Job Martinez. Side question. Thank you for the donation. If start stops popping off in the Middle East, do you think we'll see any more orbs or related technology, or is that reserved for more secret stuff? Great question. In fact, I think this is a good time right now to say what my position is in the Middle East. I don't give a shit about what happens in the Middle East. No offense. I'm not on anybody's side. Go ahead and wipe each other out if that's what you guys want. My view on the Middle East is that this is a situation that goes back more than 75 years, and there is no resolution that's ever going to happen without somebody annihilating somebody else. So, you know what? As long as you don't drag me into it, I really don't give a shit what happens. End of the day, the reality is General Flynn was right about what he posted, I think it was yesterday or earlier today, which is that Iran getting wiped out, or the current regime in Iran getting wiped out, not all the people. We don't have to kill innocent people. The current regime getting wiped out is absolutely beneficial to America. No question is it beneficial to America. They're allied with Russia and China. So yes, them getting wiped out benefits America. And the reality is that, guys, look at the technology we're talking about. Free energy technology, literal teleportation technology. Can we really give a culture, any culture, that doesn't respect life, that thinks that like you can blow yourself up and go to the afterlife and you're going to have 52 virgins waiting for you? Can any culture like that be allowed to have free energy technology? No. And that's not controversial. That's just what it is. Sorry. If your culture says, oh, we're going to annihilate everybody to bring us to the afterlife, well, then you're not allowed to have the technology. And for the people that say, well, you can't hold everybody back for a few people. Yes, they can. They have been doing that. They're going to continue to do that. So I don't know, man. I'm just a realist. I'm not really on any side or anything like that. I'm just a realist about the situation. And probably the only way that we get this technology without destroying ourselves is some pretty gross dystopian future. So I'm not necessarily looking forward to it. This is why I tell you guys, like every single live stream, I don't really want to know anything anymore. I want to just kind of plug back into the matrix because I don't see any good outcome to this. There's no end. There's no happy ending to this story. You guys know that, right? There's no happy ending to this. Not for me, not for any of us, probably. So just so we're all on the same page here, that's my stance on what's going on in the Middle East. So when you see me commenting about something, it's not because I'm on Iran's side or Palestine's side or Israel's side. I'm just calling it how I see it, man. The moment I saw hypersonic missiles coming down on Israel, I knew that this thing was about to escalate to the next level, man. United States is not going to let Iran shoot people with hypersonic missiles that are probably from Russia without retaliation. No question, no doubt. Things are just going to get way, way worse from here. And this is the last part I want to say on it, and then we'll move on to the next part is, guys, do you not understand what the United States is capable of? You absolutely should be terrified. If you are in another country that is adversarial to the United States, you should be terrified. I'm terrified. I'm probably never going to be able to leave the country ever again because I'm terrified that they would just have free reign to do whatever they want for me. And they have straight up magic. They have Tesla technology. And Tesla was building death rays. He said we could build a death ray that literally just shuts off the electromagnetic impulse to any human being. To any human being. So what can the United States do? They can do some atrocities that the world is not even ready to even consider to be possible at the moment. And my guess is now that by the way, you guys are helping in this. You guys are complicit in what I'm about to say right now. We are accelerating this technology coming out. The fact that we are out here promoting and explaining how teleportation technology works, it's forcing the hand of the United States government because people are starting to wake up to this technology and they're realizing they have to use their advantage while they have it before they lose it. Because once everybody has teleportation technology, now you don't have the leverage anymore that you used to have. Right now, nobody can compete. So there you guys go. That's the hard truth of our situation right now and what's going on. Yeah, it's going to be biblical, man. It's going to be straight up biblical, like Revelations type stuff. Like I am the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. That's like the world we're living in right now. So, you know, and it's not a surprise. Here's the last thing. Actually, I said this is the last, but this is the real last thing. I don't think it's a surprise that Israel targeted not just all the Iranian leadership, but they targeted their nuclear physicists as well. They took out their nuclear physicists. Why? It's not because they're afraid of them making nukes. I mean, they've had 75 years. They should have been able to figure out nukes in 75 years. They're afraid of them figuring out something even more powerful than nukes. They're afraid that the Iranian regime will destroy the whole planet, that they'll get pissed off and just destroy the whole planet just to get back at Israel or whatever, right? That's what they're afraid of. That's why they're taking out the nuclear physicists. Because, once again, the nuclear physicists are probably the ones that found out about zero-point energy first. Because they were doing these super huge energy experiments, and they probably just found out about negative energy, the true vacuum. Okay. Whew. Okay, well, now we've got, doesn't it feel good to get your political views out there so everybody can judge you? There you go. Now you can judge me, everybody. Everybody can be upset at Ashton, both sides. Okay, let's see. Do we need to look at this more? Let me pull this up real quick. Oh, okay. So the last thing it says here is we will need a physics theory of consciousness and psychotronics along with more experimental data in order to test the hypothesis and discover the physical mechanism behind psychotronic manipulation of matter. Teleportation, if verified, would represent a phenomenon that could offer high payoff military, intelligence, and commercial applications. The last thing I want to say on that part is that my sources tell me that like the remote viewing stuff is like real, or at least the people take it seriously, that they actually hire people to do psychic remote viewing kind of things. I mean, I can't have a hard time believing that. Reality is, guys, like I wasn't really a big conspiracy guy before all this. And now I'm kind of like, man, I don't really know where the bottom of the rabbit hole is. I don't really know where it is, but I will say that the 0-point energy does definitely open the door to remote viewing, because that is the barrier. The 0-point energy is the barrier that we're tunneling through in order for faster and light communication, in order for faster and light travel. That's what unifies all these concepts. Let's listen to Hal Puthoff. Let's listen to the GOAT. The GOAT. And not only is he the final boss, but he's also the GOAT. I think that the only people that should be considered to be given amnesty are the scientists and engineers. They're not the ones that use the weapons on people, right? They were just, inventing stuff. And even if they were gatekeeping it, well, they still also invented it. So it's kind of like we wouldn't have it if they hadn't invented it either. But the politicians, the defense contractor people, the intel people, none of those people get amnesty. None of those people get amnesty. Okay. Hal Puthoff. Let's go. Oh, here's the teleportation. Here we go. Wormholes and teleportation explained by Hal Puthoff. This is
The whole
30
idea
years
of
ago.
wormholes, where you can open up a time-space and slip into another part of the universe.
Right.
That's a possibility.
Yep, general relativity.
This, once again, this is from the 90s, man. And Hal Puthoff looked old in the 90s. All I'm saying is that you guys don't think Hal Puthoff has figured out reverse aging? How can this man be alive? He was like 60 back then. It's 30 years later. The guy's like 89 years old right now. So yes, wormholes are possible. Here we go.
Part of the universe.
Right.
That's a possibility.
Yep, general relativity, if the equations are right, that's a possibility.
How does that actually work? I mean, how can you actually, what do you need to do that? To open a wormhole in basic layman understanding.
You need a lot of energy.
Yeah.
That's one thing you need.
No, you don't. Not anymore.
You need to structure it in a certain way so as to affect the vacuum. You know, we can write the equations for it, see how it is. It's a little hard to describe physically. I mean, actually, we don't really know how to actually go out and do it physically because there are few little things like, well, I'm going to need some negative energy here. Where am I going to get some negative energy? Well, in some sense, the Casimir effect is actually considered a negative energy thing.
Even 20 years ago, they knew the Casimir effect. When Hal Puthoff gets asked how it works, why did he pause for so long? He paused for like 5 seconds. He's like, what am I going to say here? Oh, the Casimir effect. Guys, for the people that say a wormhole requires this huge amount of energy, wrong. Check out Matt Visser's paper on wormholes. It takes an arbitrarily small amount of exotic negative energy. So the real trick, as Hal Puthoff said, is how do we configure the negative energy? How do we configure the negative energy so that it creates a bubble? That's the big trick. That's what they figured out with the orbs. Coherence. Yes, exactly. Coherence. Bose-Einstein condensate. Bose-Einstein condensate. We can control the shape of things using cymatics, using frequency. That is what I'm thinking might be another one of the discoveries that we haven't delved into much when it comes to the MH370 videos.
So, okay, maybe I want to have Casimir walls around my wormhole, and so we see the mathematics of it can predict that if general relativity is right. I mean, this is enough to make some people say, general relativity must be wrong if it predicts that. And there are some other models that, you know, more or less match general relativistic predictions, but don't have that effect in them. So actually, at some level, it's still sort of controversial where you could do it. But the way the math in general relativity, Einsteinian general relativity is now, it predicts you could do it, but it would just take enormous amounts of energy. Just, I mean, Matt Visser, one of the leading wormhole theorists, just published an important paper in Physical Review Letters, which is the toughest journal to get into, where he had just done some calculations where he showed that whereas we thought we needed a lot of negative energy, we can actually get by with just a little bit of negative energy. But of course, we still have to figure out where to get the negative energy from.
He just referenced the Matt Visser paper. So the Matt Visser paper was like right before this. Must have been 2002, 2003, somewhere in that range, I think. Or actually, maybe even earlier than that. I can't remember the exact date of it. But he goes and shows that then we can actually pull it off with a small amount of energy. And he says, too, that as long as you believe in Einstein's equations, then wormholes are real. Simple as that. Like, no question. Einstein's equations show wormholes are real. And he says, this is so hard for people to believe that they started to question Einstein's equations. These are the same people that say Einstein's equations are beyond reproach. The same people that don't believe in wormholes say that you can't doubt Einstein's equations. I agree. Einstein's equations are right. We can absolutely make a wormhole.
So it's still a theory, but teleportation happened with a photon. I mean, they have done that.
Yeah, now the teleportation,
Here we go.
as it sounds to a layman, is, oh, something was here, suddenly disappeared, and wow, suddenly it was there. It isn't exactly like that. It's that you had a photon that had certain quantum properties, and suddenly those quantum properties were able to be reproduced over here. So, and since the only way we know about a photon is its quantum property, then you might as well use the word. Well, it teleported from here to here because whatever was here is now here.
Well, how did those properties go from here to there? What was?
Before we get to how, now I'm starting to get scared. Because what Hal Puthoff just described right there, I'm glad we read all the different kinds of teleportation. He's explaining quantum teleportation right there. And what he's saying there is that the quantum properties get transmitted. But are you still the same person if a person is transmitted? I definitely don't want to be going through any of these wormholes, guys, because I'm pretty sure it's game over. I'm pretty sure it's game over. And part of the reason why I'm really, really, really freaked out about this is that one of my best contacts, Dave Rossi, also is pretty much convinced that that whatever happened, the way he describes it to me is like, must have been like quantum teleportation, where like whatever happened on the other side, they weren't themselves anymore or whatever. Ooh.
That mechanism that got them.
Yeah,
there.
Actually, that's not an area I'm particularly familiar with. I mean, they're very, pristine experiments. I mean, they do not imply that it's photons today, insects tomorrow, frogs the next day, and people following. So, it's a very pristine kind of environment. I'm not really up on the details of it.
Right, but the warping of space is something that you can see definitely is possible if we get enough energy.
Well, in fact, it happens already. I mean, we do see starlight bent by the sun as it goes by. So natural things like the sun already warp space. And so it's a case of, well, gee, if I had the mass of the sun in my pocket, I could cause light to bend around me too.
Right.
So we know in principle and we see in practice that it happens. The only question is, well, what can we do to do it on, say, a laboratory or...
So the question is, how do we engineer it? We know it happens. We see bending of space-time. We see it. We see light bending around black holes. We see gravitational lensing all throughout the sky. It looks like a wine glass when they take those pictures because we see the gravitational lensing. We've detected gravitational waves. What do people think is waving? What? I seriously don't understand what people think a gravity wave is. What do you guys like? I hate to even invoke his name, but what does Professor Dave think that is waving in a gravity wave? What are the things waving? Empty space? The empty vacuum is waving? What do you mean? What does that mean? The answer is energy density. If energy density changes, that's a gravity wave. If the sea level changes, it's a gravity wave. So our equilibrium sea level, we think of as absolute nothing. We think of it as zero, is not the bottom. That's the false vacuum. The true vacuum is way down here. That's the real bottom, the bottom of the ocean. And we can be on top of the ocean too, right? We can add to the ocean. That's all the mass and energy you see in outer space. All the mass and energy you see out in the observable universe is on top of the ocean of energy. It adds to it. Pretty simple. Not that hard to understand. Now let's listen to a little bit of my boy, Eric W. Davis. I think there's some teleportation Eric W. Davis stuff. Let me just double check. Eric Davis. Where is it? Eric Davis. G4. Crap. I think he was on a G4 TV thing. Eric W. There it is. No, I can't find it. Where is it? Is this one it? Okay, we'll do a different one. Teleport videos. Okay, let's do... Which one was I looking for? Where is my Ken Shoulders one? Oh, actually, no. Let's watch this one first. This is a teleportation protocol by PBS.
This time, Alice doesn't even have to travel to Bob to collect an entangled particle. the quantum vacuum at her location is already entangled with the vacuum at Bob. She could make a measurement and send the results of that measurement to Bob by classical channels, and Bob can use that information to extract real energy. Let's look at what the quantum fields are actually doing in the QET protocol. As I mentioned earlier, we can think of the quantum vacuum as being made up of every possible frequency mode, which together cancel each other out to yield the apparent emptiness, zero average energy, observed on large scales. But this balance can be disturbed. It's disturbed by black holes to produce positive energy outside the black hole and negative within. That's Hawking radiation. And it's disturbed by the measurements made by Alice and Bob. Alice's measurement yields a positive energy, and that means she has injected energy into the vacuum. She disturbed the vacuum, so the underlying vibrational modes no longer cancel, but rather yield an excited state. Bob then uses the information from Alice's measurement to tune his own measurement, which ensures that he sees the vibrational modes that were depleted to power Alice's excitation.
So the thing that I wonder here is that clearly these teleportation protocols have a sender and receiver. And there has to be some measurement that occurs as well. Like there has to be the breakdown of the wave function. Like you're rebuilding the wave function, then you're like breaking it down. This is the part I still can't figure out from the videos, because when you watch the videos, it seems like the triggering event is the orbs coming together and then the plane's just gone. But is there something like an active event happening on the other side? Like, are they measuring something at the location of the fourth orb, which causes the plane to reappear on that side? Unfortunately, we are so far ahead of the paradigm right now that there's not even enough scientific data, in my opinion, to be sure one way or another. But I do find these to be pretty interesting.
Bob sees a negative energy density in the vacuum and finds that the missing energy is now in his measuring device. Alice needs to input at least as much energy as Bob extracts. That's why this protocol feels like energy teleportation. Energy injected into the quantum vacuum at one location is extracted at a different location without ever taking the form of real particles. It doesn't violate energy conservation, and it also doesn't violate relativity, because the measurement information that Alice sends to Bob still has to travel by classical channels. This time, Alice...
Whoops. So, it doesn't violate conservation, and it's not violating causality either. And right there, he just said, it seems like free energy. Yes, it is free energy. It is literally free energy by definition, that we're getting something that we shouldn't be able to get by classical view. When you're teleporting an airplane that's this size, has this huge amount of mass, imagining that this is a real airplane, when you're moving it from here to here, and it's clearly not using that much energy to do that, that is free energy. You're bringing energy to you at a low cost, at almost nothing. So you're getting more energy out of that exchange than it took. And the only way that's possible, is if we live in this sea of energy. Here's Ken Shoulders, the father of EVOs, explaining what these plasma balls could do.
Positive things that can be used for.
You name something you want that's good, and it'd probably be the thing that does it for you.
If you want something that's good, it'll probably be the thing that does it for you.
If you say anti-gravity, propulsion properties are just incredible.
You say anti-gravity, the propulsion properties are just incredible.
It will be able to push anything you want, anywhere you want.
It'll be able to push anything you want, anywhere you want it.
It enshrouds stuff. This is all written in some of these things.
It enshrouds stuff.
On the web. And when it enshrouds things, it can allow them to disappear. It does make atoms disappear.
When it enshrouds stuff, it makes things disappear. It does make atoms disappear.
In laboratory work.
In laboratory.
Well, that's interesting, because when they disappear, I can transport all this stuff through somewhere else and it reappeared.
I can transport this stuff through somewhere else and it reappears.
That's teleportation.
That is teleportation indeed.
So it does that very nicely.
It does that very nicely.
It's an energy source, just incredible. We can forget all of our energy problems.
As an energy source, just incredible. We can forget all of our energy problems. That right there is Ken Shoulders. He's the man that worked with Hal Puthoff in 1989, working on exotic vacuum objects that are just stabilized balls of plasma, miniature suns. Working with Hal Puthoff, financed by Bill Church of Church's Chicken. Can't even make that up. Can't even make that up. And here's the Discord invite if you missed it the last 2 times. The next interview I want to take a look at is Tom Bearden, also explaining teleportation. Let me find the right one. Uh-oh. Oh, here it is. I do have it named.
I won't dwell on this. I will simply state that all that a mass is anyway, a particle of mass, is in fact a trapped scalar resonance. I'm going to give you a quick once-over about scalar resonance and we'll go on.
All mass is a trapped scalar resonance. I love it. Keep going.
Take a normal resonance system with a wave moving back and forth in a cavity so that it's in phase and coherent. Suppose that there were 2 waves moving along together, but the second wave, the electric and magnetic field, were 180 out from the first one. That's a scalar resonance system. Your normal instrument won't even see it. We can build special detectors and have that will see it. That's all a mass is, but you can make a current of that kind of resonance, and you can pipe that current down a wire, or you can add to that resonance in the system, or you can take it away. What did I say? I said you can pump the mass and inertia directly into an object and increase it, or you can pump it out of there. And if you pump all of it out of there, it'll dematerialize on you.
Wow. You can pump mass into an object, or you can pump mass out. He's clearly explaining how you're manipulating space-time, right? You can actually manipulate space-time like this. Whoop. Remember, we have our sea of energy. Manipulate like this, pull it out, or add to it. Can do either. That's what he's explaining right there. If you pull it all out, it'll disappear.
And the statements I am making are based in part on experimental evidence in the laboratory.
That's my favorite. Based in part on experimental evidence in the laboratory. People probably thought he was full of shit. Dave Rossi has seen it in the laboratory too. How many people in the laboratory have seen teleportation? I honestly have to wonder. I know for sure Hal Puthoff and Eric W. Davis have seen teleportation in the labs.
Private, proprietary laboratories.
And he says
you are no longer
private labs because he's talking about like Lockheed Martin, Boeing, the defense contractor. That's what he's talking about.
Confined to the speed of light at all. If you're clever, you can get almost any velocity you want to, whether it's slower than the speed of light or faster. Tesla reported speeds of 50 times the speed of light. I have personally participated in an experiment which kicked out an electromagnetic wave of this type at 8 times the speed of light.
My guess is they were measuring the speed of light by measuring the quantum entanglement. So he's not really saying that it was moving at 8 times the speed of light. What he was saying is that they were able to make an object go from here to here, and if you were to measure how fast that occurred, it happened 8 times the speed of light. It was faster than light. But the reality is now that we understand quantum entanglement, we know that it's just instantaneous transmission anywhere at any 2 points. It's instantaneous transmission at any 2 points in space and time. That's the kind of teleportation we're looking at in our future. Probably not retrocausal teleportation, but don't get upset. We probably are looking at age reversal. We probably are looking at being able to cure cancer by reversing its entropy, by reverting it to a previous state. So pretty good if you ask me. Truth Teller, thank you very much for that donation. Hollywood always preps us with a soft disclosure. Absolutely. And then Jerry with that big super sticker. Thank you guys. Appreciate y'all tonight. Okay, let's go back to the clip because we're not even done yet. You're going to notice this image you see right here. This is scalar interferometry. It's actually just interferometry in general. It's just an interference pattern. You're just looking at an interference pattern here. So what they're saying is you can manipulate the interference pattern to the constructive and destructive phase points, and you can pull energy from one place and have it appear somewhere else.
And indeed, when you interfere this wave, you break up the coherence of the substructure. They now no longer sum to zero, and guess what that gives you? It gives you a non-zero vector in the E field and the B field out there. Real energy now appears at a distance out there from two transmitters or two wave projectors, and yet what's in the middle is not energy flow in the normal sense that we transmit an ordinary electromagnetic wave. It's really an artificial potential. The closest thing we have to calling it is an electrostatic wave. A more accurate description is
electrogravitic.
It is a direct wave in the curvature of space-time itself. It's a general relativistic wave or a gravitational wave. So if we have two projectors...
So they can make a gravitational wave. How? How? Two scalar projectors. Two scalar projectors. They use a phase conjugate crystal in the laser to make a scalar projector. It has no electromagnetic wave. No electromagnetic wave, just zero, according to Maxwell's equations. You say, well, what are you beaming? You're beaming nothing then. You're beaming nothing until you cross that nothing beam with another nothing beam. And then when your two nothing beams cross, boom, all of a sudden energy appears. All of a sudden energy appears there because constructive interference happens with the various modes, with the various nothing. It goes from nothing to something. And what's really happening is you're beaming that from your transmitter to your receiver. So in all of these configurations, there's a transmitting side and there's a receiving side. In all of these, so far, at least that I've seen.
These might be two modified radar antenna, and we intersect them at a distance. We can produce energy at a distance. And that energy arises in the space-time of that intersection zone. It doesn't matter if that's inside a mountain or inside a missile or inside an airplane or inside a human body. If I lower the potential of my projectors below zero, in other words, I make negative potentials, and pretty strong negative.
Negative potential.
What happens in the intersection zone is not the appearance of energy, but the disappearance of energy. When I bend space-time, if I bend it in one fashion, the local region looks like a source. It looks like it's producing energy. If I bend it the other way, it looks like a sink. It looks like energy is disappearing. This is real. This is general relativity.
So right there, he just explained it. You can bend it two ways. If you create a negative potential, you're doing that to space-time. If you create a positive potential, you're adding to it. So if I subtract from one location, we must adhere to conservation. If I subtract from one location, I must add to another location. Everybody's so upset with me because I know that we're looking at teleportation. Because they go, how is this possible? And I go, the ether is real. I just keep telling people the ether is real. 0 point energy is real. We're not violating conservation. We're adhering to conservation. If you take away from one location, you must appear somewhere else. We're literally transmitting through the medium, through the extra dimension. That's what Tom Bearden was explaining. Do you guys know what year this video is from? You guys know what decade it's from? This video is from 1985. 1985. Wow.
What really happens is I either put the energy in here and get it out there, or I take it out from there and I get it back here and I better dump it or I'll burn out my projectors. Well, you make a dump and you simply transform it in the other mode and switch it over to the dump. Well, if you were weaponizing that for a big weapon, if you hit this thing explosively with your projectors and you fire two pulses so the pulses meet, an interesting thing occurs. If you fire it in the high potential mode, you get an electromagnetic explosion at a distance. If you fire in the low potential mode, you get a cold explosion at a distance, the sudden withdrawal of energy in the intersection zone.
Wow. The cold explosion. Tom Bearden was talking about these cold explosions because it's an endothermic event. It's like the opposite of what we would expect from a normal explosion. Why? Because we're not adding energy to a distance. That's what an explosion is. That's what a bomb is doing. A nuclear bomb is adding a huge amount of energy. to a location, to the ocean of energy. What he's saying is we can do the opposite. Negative potential can blip out that energy. And this is where Tom Bearden would talk about, we're just tickling the vacuum. We're interacting with the medium. And when we interact with the medium, we don't have to use the exact same amount of energy to get a reaction to occur. When I fire off a cannon, I don't have to push the cannonball as hard as it's being fired out of the cannon. I just light the fuse. I light the fuse on the cannon and boom, there it goes. That's what the smart engineers and scientists realize about the universe. The dumb ones have limited themselves. They've boxed themselves in from a conceptual viewpoint. And this is the reason why the defense contractors are hiring engineers and they don't hire the academic physicists. They want the people that can think outside the box. They want the people that can go, oh, there must be a medium of energy. Otherwise, you can't explain the Aharonov-Bohm effect. You can't explain the Casimir effect without a medium. You can't explain the Lamb shift without there being some exchange of energy that's occurring. Nobody should ever come at me about 0 point energy, chat. I'm working my way up the list, man. The only people that can compete at this point are the Black Project engineers themselves. Let's just be real about it. Let's just be real. Okay, what's the next one I wanted to look at? Hold on. I already forgot. I got to look at my description. I can't believe when I was thinking about what we're going to talk about tonight, I was like, how many videos about teleportation do I have? I have like a shit ton, like a lot. Oh, Paul Siz. Okay, here's, guys, Paul Siz, Siz? Whatever, however he says his name. He is a straight up goat, guys. We didn't know. He was like extreme longhorn goat. Turns out we found, JK Philly fan found several more hypersonic scientific papers by Paul Siz. And one of them, they're like hundreds of pages long, explaining all the air breathing magnetohydrodynamics, all the advancements in air breathing magnetohydrodynamics, all the hypersonic designs. There's one that has a list of all the different hypersonic designs that they've been working on since like the 70s through the early 2000s. In fact, let me see if I just have an image of that. I think I do. Yeah, here it is. This right here is from one of his papers. There you go. So you can see these different hypersonic designs that they had going on here. And so the one that we are looking at in the MH370s might be one of these. In fact, I was looking at these ones on the bottom of the list right here. This is the bottom of the list because it's either one of these like 3 right here, or it's going to be something even newer than that. It could be something because we're looking at 2014, 6 more years. They could have had even something else. So we can actually narrow down the exact hypersonic design that built the orbs. It's going to be one of the ones you see here. It's going to either be, I think we can also narrow it down to either Boeing or Lockheed. It's either Boeing or Lockheed. I don't know which, but it's going to end up being one of those two that made the orbs. There's basically nobody else that could have done it. Okay, so let's listen to the GOAT. Paul Siz might be my favorite, actually, after Hal Puthoff, because I just like his personality. He's just so chill. Something about him I just love.
Patterson, we had the flying saucers that went up. I think they covered the distance from Columbus to Detroit with something like equivalent of about 20,000 miles an hour. I don't think anyone in the ordinary aerospace business would have had any knowledge of what they were even talking about if you mentioned quantum physics or wormholes or the type of things we know now, because if you went to CERN and talked to the particle physicists, they would tell you certainly some of this was possible because they see it all the time. Where they think they see mass, they really see energy frozen in a time quantum.
Doesn't that sound really familiar to what Tom Bearden was just saying about scalar resonance, and matter is just energy trapped in a resonance, trapped in a standing wave? It's like matter is just energy trapped in a time quantum,
And what they're seeing is is really a frozen bundle of energy, and it moves back and forth almost without any restriction. It starts out at hover, and it literally almost disappears and pops over here. So it's not like a cartoon where it goes whoosh. It's almost like it disappears and comes up over here. If the physics that have to explain that are quantum physics, in which things can appear to be almost two places at the same time and appear and reappear just like positrons and electrons do in some of the high energy particle colliders.
Wow. So this guy wrote at least one, maybe two of the DIRDs as well. So he wrote several of the DIRDs, and he just openly in this interview, this is from like the early 2000s. This video is 20 years old. And he's sitting here talking about quantum entanglement, teleportation, hypersonic speeds. And he's a defense contractor. He's worked on black projects. He worked for the Air Force Research Labs. I think that's where his paper was went to. Oh, actually, I think he was with NASA. But, you know, these guys they bounce around.
Because conventionally, we think of this as speeding through space. But what if it really acts like some of the high energy particles at CERN? They really transfer into energy and reappear over here, and there was no mass that went anywhere, because all mass is solid energy. And if you find a way to move back and forth with that, the conventional wisdom is that a complex organic structure like us cannot transfer back and forth from energy to solid, but that's because we've never seen it done.
Don't speak for all of us, Paul. You know, some people haven't seen it done, but if you've been rolling deep with MH370, then you've seen it done. So we have no problem believing our boy Paul here, because obviously matter is energy, right? pretty damn clear. I think, you know, we can go ahead and we can lock that one in. Matter is energy, because otherwise this ain't possible. If matter's not just energy trapped in a resonance, this ain't possible. That ain't possible right there. So yeah.
You represent is solid energy. Now, what you see, you think you're solid, right? In fact, the distance between the atoms in your body are almost exactly relatively proportional to the same distance as the planets around the sun. So in fact, if you could look at your individual atoms, you would be 98% space. The only thing this one guy claimed that happened is, if you bottle it and move it to another location and release it, he sounded exactly like Mr. Spock. He said you create a tear in the time domain of the local space.
Sounded exactly like Mr. Spock. You make a time rip in local space. Wow. Okay, well, now this one's not an engineer, but I want to go ahead and show you one of the first things that led me towards what Stephen Greer was saying. This was an interview that Stephen Greer did on Sean Ryan's show. Wait, where is it? Here it is.
Teleportation is actually the movement of an object from point to A to B.
Okay.
Okay, not just the energy. So you take this bottle and you do it that way.
Okay.
So it's
Sean Ryan, Sean Ryan's just not buying it here, right? Like, you can just tell Sean Ryan does not believe. He's like, okay.
It's in the same sort of, again, category of transdimensional physics and advanced physics and technologies. And the real action is in the electromagnetic and magnetic spin, all of that. And so the people who understand this that I've met with who've worked on these technologies and have had them in their labs, and I've been in some of these labs, is a fascinating technology. And if it was used for something good, I mean, we'd have a whole new planet here. I mean, it'd be phenomenal, beautiful.
It's crazy that like Stephen Greer just goes on Sean Ryan's like, yeah, we've got teleportation technology, like they've got it in the labs, you know, it's based on like quantum mechanics and spin. Like, yeah, based on electromagnetism, quantum mechanics, and spin. That's really accurate, actually. Yeah. And Sean Ryan's like, yeah, whatever. Nah, it's all bullshit. Like, how brainwashed are we? How brainwashed are we, guys? If you've watched this whole live stream right now, you really have to be kind of wondering, right? You have to be kind of wondering, like, wait a minute. Everything he's saying here is all experimentally proven stuff. But somehow we just don't think we can actually teleport stuff? Why? Why don't we think it's possible? What are our excuses? It takes a huge amount of energy? Wrong. Negative energy doesn't exist? Wrong. Space-time's not a medium? Wrong. Einstein's equations aren't right? Wrong. What? I don't get it. I don't get why are people so resistant to this idea? The answer is simple. We've been brainwashed like Westworld. Doesn't look like anything to me. Like, that's what's happening. That's how we've missed all this. We've been fed narratives to parrot without thinking about them. And so that's why when people say, oh, we can teleport, they know that violates the laws of physics. They say, it would take this huge amount of energy. None of these things are true. They're just things that we've been told to think, told to repeat, told to say. The experimental evidence, the Black Project engineers, no question, no doubt, just laid it out for you. All of them are saying the exact same thing. The only question left behind is, what's the physical mechanism? What's the actual physical mechanism? Are we converting them to a wave function and then going from a wave function back to a coherent shape? Are they actually just traveling through the extra dimension? My personal viewpoint after 2 years of researching it is it's kind of all of the above. Is that the idea of the wormhole is a conceptual viewpoint that connects any 2 points in space and time together by Einstein's equations. But that the actual physical mechanism by which that happens is a coherent matter wave beam. Coherent matter wave beam meaning that the fermions that would normally reject one another, like when you guys are on Tinder, they come together. They come together and they collapse onto a single point, creating a wave out of matter. But end of the day, the only way we're going to know for sure how it all played out is if we get to see those videos on the other side of the MH370. Because we know the United States government knows what happened to that plane. We know they know the answer to teleportation. They know if we can go back in time. They know all of these things. Let me see if I've got one more, maybe. Okay. Let's look at Brian Cox here. I actually don't know what this is going to be. Let's just see. Well, we're going to go to a mainstream physicist. I'm a little scared.
Already done teleportation. We've teleported, it's been a prediction of quantum theory for decades, and we've done it with small particles, so single particles. So the question is, can you do it with bigger things? Don't know is the answer. But it's been done with the smallest particles.
In our lifetime, what's more likely, teleportation or time travel? Are they possible?
We can do both.
Possible that in my lifetime, instead of driving home for a long time on the freeways of Los Angeles and really losing my temper several times, that I will be teleported into to my home?
I don't think you're going to have to do that. For all we know, it's been done with single particles. We don't know. Time travel, it's been done in the sense that you can travel into the future as fast as you like.
You know what? Brian Cox, you're not even going to get ripped to shreds by me. That was actually all correct. Time travel and faster than light communication, they are the same thing. They are tied together. You can travel to the future. We can travel to the future. No question, no doubt. Can you travel to the past? Remains to be seen. But right now, it's not looking great. Anyway, guys, I think we're going to end it on that. That was a great moment of Zen by Dr. Brian Cox. In fact, there we go. I didn't have to tear apart an academic. So that was awesome, guys. I hope you guys enjoy the discussion about teleportation, which is absolutely real. I hope you guys learned something here as well today. Come back again on Wednesday, guys. We're going to be talking more science leading up to the Cosmic Summit this weekend. I'll see you guys there. And then leading up to next week with Dr. Yu on Tim Pool. I've already got a list of topics that I'm going to be going through with Tim Pool and Dr. Yu. It's going to include faster than light communication. It's going to include why light is not a particle. It's going to have literally everything that just completely triggers every academic out there. 0-point energy is real. Dark matter is fake. You know, magnetism, electromagnetism, and gravity are ultimately the same underlying force. Whew. I cannot wait. It's like literally my dream to do that. Oh. Anyway, guys, have a great night. Oh, wait, let me hit some of these last donos. I forgot. Oh, I almost forgot. Thank you very much. Chad Nice. Appreciate you. IF, your podcasts are phenomenal. Please consider making a series like Cosmos about all this. Podcasts are awesome, but you need to spread the word. That is actually the plan at some point. I just don't have the time for it right now. But the plan after this is to make, I'm basically going to steal Professor Dave's whole shtick, and I'm just going to do it better than he did it. Like, instead of him just reading scripts he doesn't understand, I'm going to do real science, little explainer videos about all these little topics. I've already got a whole list of things to do. And then I'll just release them like every couple of days or something like that. You know, that's where this is going to probably shift to. So there you go. Sam Fisher, do you think all these recent airline disasters have been engineered to make the public psychologically accept this next generation tech? No, not really. I don't think all the disasters in the world are all, you know, political, just a lot of them. Just a lot more than we currently think, probably. But no, I wish, man, I don't ever want to get on another airplane again. So can we get that teleportation tech? Can they figure out how to make it so that I can teleport onto the other side and not become Bizarro Ashton or whatever the hell is going to happen? I'd really appreciate that. Also, I don't need another like 5 copies of myself roaming around either. So let's solve those problems first. And then Duluth Security Needs LLC. This is a fantastic broadcast, Ashton. Great presentation and outstanding dissection of an incredible subject. Yeah, and I'm glad we went over it. Sometimes we have to go back to the basics, although teleportation is not exactly basic, but really hit the underlying fundamental concepts. I think we'll probably talk about free energy on Wednesday, and I'll go through a bunch of free energy devices that I've got videos of that are, you know, reasonable, or that, you know, show the meters showing over unity that would be pretty difficult to fake. And I think that'll be a good segue into the weekend. So thank you guys, MH370X. Y'all guys are the best. Let's talk on Wednesday. Later, everybody. Gonna play us out with this one. Actually, you know what? This one, here we go. This one is dedicated to the professor. This song's for you. It's an oldie but a goodie. One of the best. Shout out to Heather Birdie. She made it. It's great. Here we go.
It's H370 until you do some research. Don't talk to me. I'm going to find the truth while I sip this martini. Your opinion, it means squat to me. It's H370. Not all heroes wear capes. I wear glasses to see. I'm going to find the truth while I sip this martini. The trolls hate seeing me succeed, but guess what? H370. I'm going
Oh, wait, it didn't end?